Sure. Here are some sample interview questions and answers related to the domain name system, DNS. Q. Can you describe what the domain name system, DNS, is and how it works? A. The domain name system, DNS, is a system that maps human-readable domain names, e.g. www.example.com, to their corresponding IP addresses. It acts as a sort of phone book for the Internet, allowing users to access websites and other resources by typing in a familiar and easy-to-remember name rather than a numerical IP address. When a user types in a domain name, their computer sends a request to a DNS server, which looks up the corresponding IP address and sends it back to the user's computer. The computer can then use the IP address to connect to the desired resource. Q. How do DNS servers resolve domain names to IP addresses? A. DNS servers use a hierarchical system to resolve domain names to IP addresses. When a DNS server receives a request for a domain name, it first checks its own records to see if it has the IP address for the domain. If it does not, it sends a request to a higher-level DNS server, which may have the information or may in turn forward the request to an even higher-level server. This process continues until the IP address is found or it is determined that the domain name does not exist. Q. Can you describe the different types of DNS records? A. There are several different types of DNS records, including address records, which map a domain name to an IP address CNAME, canonical name records, which map a domain name to another domain name MX, mail exchange records, which specify the mail servers for a domain NS, name server records, which specify the DNS servers responsible for a domain text records, which can be used to store arbitrary text data for a domain. Q. How do DNS caching and DNS poisoning work? A. DNS caching is a technique used by DNS servers to improve the speed of domain name resolution by storing the results of recent DNS queries in memory. This means that if a domain name has recently been looked up, the DNS server can quickly return the stored IP address without having to send a request to another DNS server. DNS poisoning is a type of cyber attack in which an attacker modifies the records in a DNS server or cache in order to redirect traffic intended for a legitimate website to a malicious site. This can be done by sending forged DNS responses to the DNS server or by compromising the server itself. DNS poisoning can be used to steal sensitive information, spread malware, or redirect advertising revenue.